Welcome to the Fixer Upper Lake House. This is the house that my husband and I just bought for our family. We bought a 1950s summer cabin that we are going to retrofit to the highest possible standards, insulation, mechanical, etc., so that we can live here as a family for many years to come. So come on in, we're excited to show you. So we have a lot of work on the books for this house. We can't wait. So one of the biggest parts of this house renovation is that we're going to be completely redoing the thermal envelope of the building. And what that means is that we're adding a new air tightness layer. We're adding lots more external insulation, both to the exterior walls and the roof. Wherever we can, we will add batt insulation in the interior. We'll be electrifying the building completely. So when we're doing that, we also need to actually rewire the whole building for safety purposes. And we'll be adding a completely new HVAC system. So that includes fresh air input and also exhausting for the interior spaces, as well as a completely new heating and cooling system. So I actually want to show you a demo of what our external envelope is going to look like. Come over here. So this was a mock-up that we did pretty early on. And the idea is that first, we'll be stripping back all the old cladding. We'll get back down to the original sheathing. The sheathing is actually in really good condition, so we're going to leave that as is. But we're going to remove all of the old tar paper, the building paper, replace it with a new air barrier. So we're going to go with this one. We'll be sealing the air barrier and any openings that we have with tape. And then outside of that air barrier, we're going to be adding 4 inches of new continuous insulation. Now, you can see this is not foam insulation, it's a cellulose-based insulation. And again, it's quite thick. It's in 2 pieces right now just because this is what we had on hand, but the idea is that it's showing us the thickness of our external envelope that we're adding to the building. So outside of the air barrier, we'll be adding 4 inches of continuous cellulose insulation. Then we will have a furring system to provide a bit of space and ventilation behind our wood cladding that we'll be adding. So that would be represented by this piece of wood. Then outside of that, we'll have our external cladding, which will be a wood cladding that we'll be applying. And then we'll have trim on the outside of that. So if you look at the total thickness of this mock-up here, you can see that it'll basically be ending here, and then you'll see our trim on the outside. And then in order for our new windowsills to get beyond all of that thick insulation and cladding, then the windowsills will basically be coming all the way out to this point. So that will actually leave us with quite a large inset space for our windows, which will actually be really useful in the summer because this is actually our southern facade and it will help shade the high sun and reduce heat gain in the summer. So we're really looking forward to this kind of dual action element from our window assembly. Now we're inside the house. As you can see in this area, we haven't opened up too much. We're basically going to be doing a very light touch cosmetic facelift, nothing more unless we absolutely have to. But if you come over to this part of the house, you can see all of the walls are already opened. Part of that is because we had to rewire the house. And then also, in addition to rewiring, because you can see here, we have a brand new junction box here that will be an outlet. We will also be replacing all of these 4 windows, 1, 2, 3, 4. This window is actually broken. It's missing one of the panes. And then the other 2 are functioning really poorly. So it was crucial that we replace these with high performance windows that are Passive House certified, because this is the north facing facade. So this is actually the area that you have the most heat loss, and it's the area that is most important to have a high performing window so you don't have heat loss from the inside out in the winter. The other piece that is important, especially in this room, because we're doing all this work, we already were opening up the walls. Now this gives us the opportunity to re-insulate all these walls. If we had not been doing all this work, we would have just left it as it was. But this is a good opportunity for us to improve the performance of the house by re-insulating. This is the old fiberglass insulation. You can actually see how crusty it is. It's trapped lots of dirt over the years, and some of it's in better shape than other parts, but we're going to be completely removing this and replacing it with a 3.5 inch thick hemp insulation, which we're really excited to have delivered very soon to the house. Come on with us to the kitchen now. As you can see here, all the old cabinetry has been removed. We have some of the old appliances over here, the refrigerator, dishwasher. This is going to go because it's very low efficiency and actually quite old. We're not even sure if it works. But the other thing that's notable here is that, again, we have both exterior walls. This wall, which is south-facing, and then the east-facing wall are both completely open. And again, because we were rewiring, this gives us an opportunity to now re-insulate and make sure that this is a high-performance wall. The thing to note, though, is that we will not be replacing these 4 windows here, and also not the 2 other windows on the other external wall, because we want to A, keep the character, and B, these windows are functioning really well. However, they are not high efficiency, high performance windows, unfortunately. So in keeping these, we also know that in the future, or as soon as possible, we will actually be installing external storm windows to help improve the airtightness of the windows and also add a little layer of additional insulation. It's not going to be a huge impact, but the main idea is to reduce air leakage, and that will have a larger impact than if we had just left them as they are. And we do love how this looks. These are the windows with the old weights on them. So you can see these pockets here that have the weight and chain so that we're able to move the windows up and down. And this is really a piece of history. And one of the ideas with buying this house, renovating it, and then restoring it is that we're preserving history. The building tells a story. These pieces are beautiful. We don't want to waste these pieces. They're still functional. So we want to make sure that we can keep some of these important elements to keep the character of the house. Now we're in the basement, and you can see a lot of the ceiling space is now taken up by ductwork. It takes up a lot of our floor-to-ceiling height space, but the ductwork and the HVAC system is incredibly important for us. We want a high-performing house. It's going to be airtight, so that means that we need to have the proper amount of ventilation into the house. All of our first-floor spaces will be receiving a ducted air system, so the ducted air system will be providing both fresh air as well as heating and cooling. It'll be combined to the same ductwork, so that's why you see so much ductwork down here. The upstairs floors, you could see the ceiling cassettes for mini splits there, and the fresh air will be provided by the upstairs ERV. So that means we'll have 2 ERV systems. We will have the ERV system that will supply fresh air to the first floor down here in the basement. It's actually in place over there in the back. And then the upstairs has its own ERV system providing fresh air up to the upper floors in the bedrooms. Now down here at the edge of our basement floor, you can see where we have new concrete patched around the entire perimeter, and you can also see this dimple mat, drainage mat, coming up on the edge. That's because we recently had to do an interior French drain. So they had to pull up all of the existing concrete slab that went up to the side walls, whether it be this half-height wall or the full-height exterior walls. They placed a new French drain with a new drainage mat around it, and then covered it all with gravel and then concrete. And that perimeter drainage runs all the way along, again, the perimeter, and then is sent over to here, where we have a new sump pump and a battery backup. Then this sump pump pumps the water that's collected from these drainage pipes along the perimeter out to the dry well in the outside of our front lawn. And this will allow us to make sure that we have a dry basement that is not affected by moisture. When we first bought this house, we realized that there was a really severe moisture problem in the basement. And actually, after a lot of rain over the summer, there was mold growing in this basement area. So this is to not only protect the surfaces and the structure of the building, but also for our health. Now we're moving up to the second floor of the house. And actually, you'll see that it's much more open here than it is downstairs. So actually, this was one big room. We've divided into 2 different bedrooms, and we've removed a lot of the gypboard from the ceilings and walls in these 2 rooms. So over here, you can see that this whole area is open because we needed space to A, place the cassette for the mini split in the ceiling, and then B, provide exhaust and fresh air for the ERV supply system. And then if we go into the master bedroom, you can see actually all of our exterior walls are open here, as well as the ceiling. There's a little bit of gyp that's actually going to be taken down soon, but again, we needed to make space for all of our HVAC. So our mini split for heating and cooling, as well as our fresh air input for this room. And then also, there was some funky stuff happening with years of renovations. In some places, 3 layers of gypboard on top of each other for some reason. So it was important to us to remove some of those old layers of not so useful material, and then also make space to insulate. So this area here, this is both functioning as a wall for the room as well as the roof. And the roof is where you're losing most of your heat during the winter, as it faces the sky. So this is a really important place to insulate. So we've actually begun some of the insulation here. You can see some 5.5-inch thick hemp wool batts are already in place. We're going to be getting a larger delivery soon. So this whole area will be completely filled in with hemp wool batts, which we're very excited about. Again, improving both the exterior walls as well as the roof. Now, come on over here. You can see some insulated ductwork above me as we walk. This area actually used to be a drop ceiling. And when we removed this area because we needed to add a large timber here to support the additional dead weight of the roof, because we're adding a lot more insulation on the outside of our roof sheathing, we needed to improve the structure to accommodate for the additional dead weight. So we've added a secondary ridge beam below the existing ridge beam, which is supported on both ends, respectively, by a column 4x4 on each side. But when we removed the drop ceiling that was hiding this area, we actually discovered that this whole part of the cathedral ceiling had this beautiful stained wood paneling on it. There was a bit of stained wood paneling on this side as well, but unfortunately we had to remove it. It had some holes and it wasn't in great shape. So we're hoping to try to recreate that at some point. But it really makes the space a lot more open. The only area where we're going to have to accommodate for some HVAC ductwork in this space is just here in the corner, where the ductwork turns the corner around the cathedral ceiling to the area where more steep slope in this corner. So we're going to have to do a bit of a bump out. And then this ductwork goes back to the ERV so that we can supply, again, fresh air and also exhaust. So over here, you can see where our ERV is located. We have our ductwork coming from the other rooms. It's also supplying fresh air to this room. And then it returns back to this ERV in the corner. So this area is going to be covered up by a knee wall that we're going to finish off with gypboard. And we will have an access panel so that we can access and maintain the ERV, of course. We are going to have the fresh air intake through the roof. So I don't think that they've drilled the hole yet to accommodate for that, but they've already drilled a hole through the side so that we can have the exhaust coming out from the ERV. Thanks so much for coming along for your first visit to Lake House Retrofit. We can't wait to show you more of our progress as the project moves along, and we hope you come back again soon. So like and subscribe in order to follow us.